everyone, it is Jazz here, and I don't even really know how to approach this video because it's such a new thing. A little backstory on this video, I guess, is how I will start, is that I really enjoy retellings. However, I realized that I actively shut down and did not want to read books that were derivatives of or retellings of the novel Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I thought you really shouldn't knock something until you've tried it. So I wanted to make an effort to read Jane Eyre related works. And I thought it would be fun to invite you guys on the journey of doing that. But I sat on it for like a year, possibly a year and a half, because I didn't know how to approach that. Because honestly, a really long video that's a vlog in which I pick a month and read I don't know how many derivatives of Jane Eyre did not speak to me. But in December of 2020, it occurred to me that I could do it sort of as a series, if you will. So that is the approach I'm going to take, and I will just do one video per book, and we will analyze each retelling or book that is related to Jane Eyre. Now, because I know that not everyone has read Jane Eyre, and I know that I want all of these videos to be spoiler-ish in terms of their making, because obviously the point is to dive into each little nitty-gritty detail of why I like these books or why I don't, because they are based on this subject. I am going to try to tell you as much as I can ahead what books I'm going to read, and then if you want, you can read along with me. And I'm also going to, in this video, not spoil you on the novel Jane Eyre in case you haven't read it. I have made a list of certain categories for the book choosing ceremony, as I shall call it. The first one is a parallel novel. So this is a novel, usually often a prequel, that is around a character that is not the main character in the book. So it wouldn't be about Jane, it would be about another character from Jane Eyre. A sequel, so any continuation of the story. Then we have related stories. So these would be books that contain an element that is Jane Eyre related, but is not necessarily a retelling. A humorous or a different spin, something that's a really quirky spin on the story or a funny spin on the story. Modern retellings, which is the one that I'm the most probably scared of because I just don't know what you would do with it, but I am definitely intrigued. And I want to find some sort of graphic novel because it'd be nice to just see what is offered. This will either be a straight up adaptation or some sort of retelling. And then I put a question mark on Charlotte Bronte related works. I've got my laptop and my handy dandy screen recorder on. So what I will be pulling up now is what I've already typed into the search, which is popular Jane Eyre retellings. And I do see some suggestions at the top, but I will click this one, which I kind of clicked but didn't really look at, which is Bronte Addicts Will Love the 7 Retellings of Jane Eyre. The first one that pops up is this one. It is called Jane, and I think it is a actual graphic novel. This is set in New York City. It's a modern retelling, and it's about an art student named Jane, because Jane does art in the book Jane Eyre. This next one is a very popular one, which is The Wide Sargasso Sea. And I'm going to straight up just choose this one. It is a prequel that is a parallel novel about Bertha, which if you haven't read the book, you don't know who Bertha is, and I won't tell you who Bertha is. But if you've read the book, you know. And this one I'm a little scared of because I'm not sure what the content of it will be, but it is one that I believe has been adapted. It is one of the most popular sort of derivatives of Jane Eyre. I also think it will create a lot of interesting discussion because it is probably the most problematic aspect of Jane Eyre, and I think it's worth diving into. Then we have Jane Steele. This appears to be a retelling that has a Dexter-esque spin to it. It follows a orphan named Jane Steele, who is a bit of a serial killer with a revenge plot. Number 6 is The Eyre Affair. This is definitely on the list. I'm going to choose it for my book that has an element of Jane Eyre, but is not necessarily a retelling or a straight up derivative of the story, because I already own The Eyre Affair, and it's the first book in the Thursday Next series. It takes place, I believe, in an alternative 1985, following the main character of Thursday Next as she tries to get Jane Eyre back into the book Jane Eyre because somebody has stolen her. Now, I'm torn between looking at 11 novels inspired by Jane Eyre, this link, or derivatives of Jane Eyre from Goodreads, but see, that thing has like 157 books on it. Let's look at this 11 books one. We have Regine. This is another modern retelling. My Plain Jane. Now, because I believe that My Plain Jane is one that's probably going to be the most popular, because it's probably one of the most popular Jane Eyre retellings on BookTube, I may pick this up. Now, the only thing about this one is that I tried to read My Lady Jane and got a few pages into it and was not really enjoying myself. I think I struggle with satire in books. I like it in movies and television, but I struggle with it in books. And I know that these books have a lot of satire elements. However, I think that I could maybe enjoy this in a audiobook. And it's basically a book that is about Jane Eyre being a ghost hunter, which does sound rather amusing. Worlds of Ink and Shadow. This appears to be a story of the actual Bronte siblings and their construction of the fictional worlds, which they did in real life. That does vaguely intrigue me. The next one is probably one that I will pick up because it is one that I see like often. I actually think I can find it at the library, so I know that I can check this one out, and it's Jane. I believe this is a modern retelling about a girl who drops out of college and gets a nannying job, and of course becomes intrigued with her brooding employer. Just gonna go ahead and look at that Goodreads list and see what's on there. Rebecca again, y'all. It's not a retelling of Jane Eyre. It's its own thing. It's just gothic too, y'all. Turn of the Screw is on here yet again. Not a derivative. Not sure why it's on this list. Also just a gothic novel. Okay, this one intrigues me. It's called Death of a Schoolgirl. Yeah, this one is a sequel to Jane Eyre. I think it's basically Jane Eyre and something is going on at Adele's school and she wants to figure out what is going on. It's going to be a bit of a mystery novel. So I think I will write that one down. Oh my gosh, Mr. Rochester, British Bad Boy, I'm sorry. And Sheen, Erotica. Those two are not happening. Okay, so it's actually a week later from when I started this video. I just needed a week to help myself think about how I was going to narrow stuff down, because what I showed you in those clips before was merely a fraction of how much I looked at things, and some of it I wanted to do off of camera, read some samples of things on Kindle to see what I wanted to narrow down certain choices of, and also just look up if there were more diverse reads and things like that. And so I just took a week to think about stuff. Also, I needed that week to decide if I was going to actually do some Charlotte Bronte related books as well, and I decided in the end not to do that. I'm just going to focus on Jane Eyre books. I really do want to read all of those Charlotte Bronte books that I found because they do sound really cool, but it does feel a little off topic. In the end, I ended up choosing 10 books just in case something falls through, like I can't find one of the books, or I decide that I don't want to finish one of the books because I'm really not liking it. I wanted to have enough books to justify having a series around this. So that's why I went with 10. Also, 10 is a like fabulous even number, and I like a good even number. I'm just going to give you the rundown of all the books that I have chosen. I won't talk in detail about the ones that I've already shown you throughout this video, but I will talk a little bit more about the ones that I didn't show you. So for the parallel novels section, I am going to read 2 books. One is, of course, The Wide Sargasso Sea, which I finally said correctly, y'all. Yay me. The other one is Mr. Rochester. I thought since Jane Eyre is from Jane's perspective, Sargasso Sea is from Bertha's perspective, it seemed only fair to pick a Mr. Rochester perspective book, which this one is. I read a sample of it and a couple of the others, and this one just seemed the most similar to the way Charlotte Bronte approached Jane Eyre. It was written in first person, and I did really like the writing style the most of the few that I was trying out, so I decided to go with this one for that reason. For sequel, I picked Death of a Schoolgirl. Then I have, for related work, The Eyre Affair. For books that have a different spin or a humorous spin, I picked 3 books for this one. I picked My Plain Jane, and then I had to pick Jane Steele because it was on so many of the lists, but also it just sounds so incredibly weird that I just have to see what it is. I have to see what they do with it. And I wanted to pick a book that was either a science fiction or a fantasy. I decided to go towards the direction of fantasy because that struck my interest more, and I chose a book called Iron Skin. I believe this is a retelling that involves fairies, which to me made very much sense because Jane is often described as looking very fairy-like. Then we get into modern tellings / I did choose one graphic novel for this. So the graphic novel was, of course, the Jane graphic novel. And notice that my list was not super diverse, and I wanted to pick at least one diverse read. And I couldn't find a lot of retellings that were diverse reads. I, granted, though, didn't look through all of the 157 books on the Goodreads list, so there might be more than I thought. But the one that was most mentioned, and I assume the most well-liked or the most interesting to others, was Jane. This is a modern retelling that is about a woman who is half Korean and half American, and she goes to become a nanny for a wealthy couple. And the last book that I already talked about was Jane. So we've got our list going. Woohoo! That was so random. I'm so sorry. Here's the game plan for the next bit of the series. I am going to reread Jane Eyre just to make sure I got all of the story in my head. So I bought this really cool annotated edition. It's actually the Writer's Digest annotated edition, and that means that it's not like a normal annotated edition. It's actually a writer-specific annotated edition. So everything in it is geared towards the actual writing of the novel and the structure of the novel. Now, I went with this one because I am going to be analyzing the writing of all these other styles of books, and I thought it made sense to study why I like this book and why this book is well written so that I can carry that into the rest of the series. And the other reason is I wanted to write and stuff, and I did not want to write in my illustrated edition of Jane Eyre. I got this because it has quite a bit of room on the sides to actually make notes on it, and I can highlight in it and all that jam. I think the best way to do this is the general idea should be to have at least one book read per month. So I'm going to read this in March and put up the video for this sometime in March, and then I will continue that with each of the books, and at the end of each video I'll tell you what book I'm going to read next. That is the plan. Drop me a comment below. I'm really excited about this idea, but I don't know who else cares about Jane Eyre enough to be excited about it. But I just really wanted to do this series because it inspires me, and I hope you guys will enjoy it, and I hope you guys will read along with me if you feel so led. So yeah, let's do this. And thank you for watching, my fabulous peeps. I will see you all soon. Bye.